So in this segment, I want to discuss the kind of Labour infighting with the benefit cuts, and we'll probably see some more infighting over immigration as well. So criticism came in of one of Starmer's better weeks in office in India, US and Ukraine. So, he's frustrated that, he thought he had a good weekend. There are a lot of people kind of in the party rebelling. Wouldn't fuel disability cuts, publicly agitated against number 10. One MP told the Mirror, of those previously wavering on key benefits vote, a lot of people have now decided they are more frightened of the voters than they are of the whips, which should be the case 100% of the time. You should be more afraid of the party, of the voters who put you in that position, rather than the party who can withdraw the whip from you, and that's it, you're still MP of that constituency. You might not be there after the next election, but you're still going to be there for the next few years. And this is ITV News reporting on this.
Well, next tonight, the increasing anger over planned cuts to personal independence payments, or PIP as they're more commonly known.
Yeah, today protesters descended on a ticket-only consultation event.
So with PIP, it's a benefit. It's not an out-of-work benefit. You can be in work and receive PIP, and that's one of the important things to remember about this.
Organised by the Department for Work and Pensions in Manchester.
Well, the government's own impact assessment has already predicted that the cuts announced in the Disability Benefits Green Paper would drive at least 300,000 people into poverty. Elaine Wilcox has the story.
When we're under attack, disabled people, fight back! Don't attack our benefits! Cut back! Fight back!
They wanted their voices heard in a public consultation on proposed cuts to benefits, but the doors were closed to a group of disabled people who couldn't get a ticket.
So one of the things here is, there were only 20 tickets available for this consultation. We don't actually know who got them, so they specifically cut from this group here, and you have, people discussing it, people with disabilities.
Were available for this public consultation, and dozens of disabled people were turned away. Amnesty International is here and say this is a violation of people's rights.
You're getting cooked by Amnesty International, the same groups going after Israel, Russia. You're getting cooked by them.
Look at what's happening today. They're asking to be let in to have a say, and they're being refused entry. This isn't okay. And we've written to the Secretary of State alongside them saying exactly that.
It's just embarrassing, to be honest with you. There's a Labour MP discussing this.
To be blunt, I think she's wrong. What we've seen right now is, yes, I'm absolutely, firstly, let me say, I'm all for people getting back to work whenever they possibly can, but this idea that we can incentivise people that cannot work and are just not able to work, then that is for the birds, quite frankly, and it is morally wrong. What we really should be doing is we should be trying to build a caring and compassionate society after 14 years of austerity and a cost of living crisis, which frankly is still raging on. And cutting welfare benefits is not that.
What is your... Brian, you must be speaking to ministers and Liz Kendall and so on. What's your sense? Have there been much outreach to MPs like you?
One of the things to remember is this guy, he's a Scottish, he's an MP, his constituency is in Scotland, and so the SNP are going to be gunning for that seat again, and they're going to use this.
Who are concerned about this, what are they saying to you? Is it just simply what the Home Secretary said to us publicly there?
I think that the leadership do just expect us to fall in line and be on board with this, but that's not the reason why I joined the Labour Party. It's not why I became a Labour councillor, and it's certainly not why I became a Labour MP. I don't want to impoverish constituents.
So yeah, there's a massive split in this party. He's gone public, and there'll be others that do the same. More discussion around the PIP payment.
40 Labour MPs have written this letter saying that welfare cuts are impossible to support. Caroline, how tricky is this going to be for the Prime Minister? The fact that this letter has been written, that there's public lack of support from these backbench Labour MPs over the plan.
You got this tweet here: parties can't justify actions that run counter to their values. Inexplicitly, Labour's plan to cut £4,500 a year from 1 million disabled people. Focus groups are revolting when they hear that people who can't wash below their waist will lose benefits. And that's who they're attacking, the most vulnerable people in society. This will cause a much bigger problem down the line, a much more expensive problem down the line.
disability cuts?
Look, I think it's 42 Labour MPs. Most of them are what I would say are the usual suspects.
So just dismissing them out of hand, acting like all of them are like Zora Sultana, but it's not true. This guy I'm assuming would be a normal fall in line guy, but he's not going to do it because that's how heinous this policy is.
I mean, regardless of anything in terms of welfare, they'd probably be wanting to vote against it. But I don't think it's
almost like you're not meant to be the party that cuts these sorts of things for people.
Cause too much worry for Keir Starmer and the government. A lot of the issues within the Green Paper that Liz Kendall, who's in charge of this, put together, actually are very supportive of helping people with disabilities back to work.
This is classic. This is what I learned in university. When you make cuts to welfare, cuts to the disabled, what you do is you don't say we're making cuts to these things. What you say is we're giving them more opportunities to work.
More support to those young people who incredibly the
but
numbers
it's
go
not
up
good
enormously.
look, though, is it? Cutting disability benefits on top of cutting payments for pensioners.
You should make the point here that PIP isn't just for people who are out of work.
Well, that's slightly different on the winter fuel allowance situation. But actually, the government have actually increased the rate of payments for some forms of universal credit. They want to put more money into...
because inflation's going up. Of course they have to increase it. Like there's something even the Tories had to do in certain years, increase the amount of universal credit, at least in line with inflation. It's still too low, but that's what they had to do.
Getting people back to work. And the truth is, whilst, these people, many of them signing the letter, say that there is a...
It's just a joke. She's a joke. This guy talking about further and faster.
And I would take two key things from the election results earlier this month. Firstly, in terms of what I should think and what my colleagues and I in government should think. And I think what's really important for us to recognise is that people are still really angry at the state of the country. The state of the country as it was at the general election last year, the reason why a lot of people voted for a new government, why people voted for...
you got voted in. People wanted you to come in because they were sick of the last lot, and now they're sick of you already.
Change, a lot of that still needs to change, and people need to feel that change in their lives in terms of money in their pockets, in terms of NHS waiting lists and so on. And we can point to what we've done in the first 9 or 10 months with NHS waiting lists coming down 6 months in a row, national minimum wage going up £1,400, pensions going up £470.
Yeah, because inflation's gone up significantly as well. You're not going to mention that. You have to, with pensions, they have to go up because they're triple log. There's 3 different metrics they use, and they use the highest one for each for the increase.
We can point to the start that we've made in terms of delivering the change, but people are really impatient to feel that. They want it more. They want to actually feel the difference in their lives. And I think that's the message that I take away from those elections, in that, we will be judged on whether we deliver. We'll be judged on whether we make people feel better off, put more money in people's pockets, keep getting NHS waiting lists down, get immigration down, and that's what we need to do in government.
Talking of putting more money in people's pockets, winter fuel allowance. That came up a lot on the doorstep. That's what lots of your MPs are saying. You know that lots...
We're known worldwide for this.
...of Labour MPs, including one former cabinet minister, are very, very unhappy about the performance of Labour at the moment. Keir Starmer is saying we will go further and faster. Does that not sound like more of the same?
Well, let me explain to you exactly what I think Keir Starmer meant when he said go further and faster, and certainly how I understand it listening to the electorate. When I was...
when they keep using this phrase, right, the thing is, you're nosediving in the polls. So, for anyone listening, for you saying going further and faster, it does sound like you want to go further into the ditch.
I was knocking on doors in the recent local elections, and some people did mention the winter fuel payment. And a lot of people would say to me, look, it was a tough decision. We know it was a tough decision. We know you've had to make lots of tough decisions because of what you inherited. But we want to see the change which making those tough decisions enables. And when Keir Starmer talks about going further and faster, when I talk about that, when we talk about that as a government, what we mean is, look, we've had to take tough decisions, difficult decisions because of the mess we inherited. What we need to go further and faster on is...
It's just a cliche statement, honestly. It's just... this from Ridge doing some good questioning here of a Labour MP.
He says he gets it, and yet the government's saying today that they're not going to make any changes to winter fuel allowance. I mean, I just don't see how that can be true. You're either not listening or you don't get it on winter fuel.
Well, I think it's perfectly possible for a Prime Minister to listen, to reflect and to consider all of the different messages. The truth is I was
and then ignore it.
No, just let me finish the point. I was on dozens, if not hundreds of doorsteps, whether it was in Runcorn or whether it was in Hamilton over the weekend. Respectfully, you hear a lot of different points being made by the public, some good, some not so good. So in that sense, to say that you're listening is a recognition that there's a huge exercise in democracy underway. We had a very tough night. It's right to recognise that, both losing the by-election by such a tiny margin and also losing some very good councillors across the country. To recognise that and to say that we are listening, I don't think demands an immediate knee-jerk response from the Prime Minister.
I mean, we are seeing a knee-jerk response in terms of him going hard on immigration. Like, that's a knee-jerk response.
Monday after the polling day, I do think it's right to say, let's take time to reflect and to consider, and I think that's exactly what's happening.
So you're listening in the same way that, you know, when someone's telling you like a long story and you're kind of thinking about what you're going to have for dinner and what's going to be on your shopping list for the weekend. Is that the kind of listening you're doing?
No, I don't think that's a perfect analogy. I think
It's brutal, because I think that is, you know, like, the only people they listen to is focus groups and Morgan McSweeney, who are leading them astray.
it's to say, honestly, you hear a lot of different points on the doorstep. It's right to take time to consider them and at the same time weigh that up against what are the inherent challenges of government. If politics involved simply saying yes to everyone, it would be a whole lot easier than it is today.
Yeah, just silly. Like, they don't have the answers. They're stalling for time, hoping that a lot of the changes kick in, but I'm not hearing it at all. These guys talking about how Labour just can't defend it anymore.
Well, front of your paper this morning, our big story yesterday, and it had a huge response from viewers. This angry backlash over winter fuel payments, and the fact that he sparked another angry backlash by refusing to do a U-turn. We challenged the Health Secretary Wes Streeting directly on this programme yesterday, and he said, looks like Number 10 have said we're not changing course. But there is a poll by More in Common, the polling company, which found that 60% of people said they would think better of the government if they did do a U-turn.
So, for the public to, want a U-turn is kind of big. I think it's too late for them to U-turn on this. I think it's way too late. They don't. The problem is it's gone too far.
Einstein's definition of insanity is said to be doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Well, let's look at it this way. We're a country that consistently, politicians talk about immigration being too high and have never done anything really about it because of the fact that they know they need it for economic growth.
Take away winter fuel allowance, you're going to get hammered every time. To think that you're going to explain it away and people will just say, OK, that was a past battle, you've lost the money.
But they can't possibly U-turn now, can they, after they've completely ruled it out?
I don't think they can U-turn. They might be able to do like a soft reboot of it and increase the amount increase the cap on it, so the thresholds, but I don't think they will.
It would be better to U-turn now. When it was announced, when I found out some cabinet ministers, other ministers and some MPs were prepared to try and defend it. Privately in conversations. None of them do now because they've been bombarded with complaints in their constituencies.
The one group of people you don't attack are old people because they have nothing but time on their hands and they will watch daytime television like this. They'll gobble it up and they will contact the station. They will contact their MP because they've got nothing better to do because they're most likely semi-retired or retired. So attacking and they vote as well. Attacking this voter base is just bad politics.
Yeah. And they just know it's scarring. I spoke to Ian Duncan Smith about this, of course, the Conservative former Work and Pension Secretary, who imposed terrible cuts and then he quit over a cut too far he's asked to make by the then Chancellor George Osborne. And he recognises some of the changes he made, you just never escape them. People don't forgive you. And that's what's happened with winter fuel. It's going to go all the way to the next election. And so it would be better. Can they U-turn now? They could. Do they show any signs of doing it? No, they don't.
They said they won't.
But
yeah, I'm not seeing it. I don't think they'll do it. I think it's too late. But there is one cabinet minister defending it, which is Rachel Reeves. Can't play it because the audio here is terrible, but it's in the policy stance, so they're not going to U-turn on it. The Lib Dems are cooking Labour on this.
The votes, there was a majority on the left. If you put together Greens, Lib Dems, Labour, SNP Plaid, there was a majority on the left, and yet...
That's not how it works, though. We live in a first-past-the-post system, bro. So that kind of argument makes no sense. Otherwise, we'd historically have some sort of left coalition.
Rather than exploiting that, the government, Starmer, has tacked to the right. Are you surprised that they tack to the right rather than the left?
I think we're very disappointed. I mean, the fact is that we know that the Conservative Party has been trying to mirror Nigel Farage, and we really hope that the Prime Minister of the Labour Party doesn't.
I mean, he is, because he's struggling in the Red Wall. That's why. That's where Farage is going to do his best work, and that's why they are pushing, copying Farage basically.
We Liberal Democrats feel that we've done particularly well in these local elections, in part because we've been a very distinctive voice.
That is true, partly because they are, the only option in certain areas as well, because it's literally the Labour Party who are doing bad, the Tories who have done bad, and the Lib Dems who are, it's been, almost 10 years since they were out of government, and people have forgotten how bad they were in coalition. So that makes sense. And, the reality is Labour stands for no one.
To figure out very quickly what is their value system. The Tories have been decimated because they've tried to out Farage. Labour now are moving in that direction, and it's not going to work.
Keir Starmer keeps saying, all his colleagues, they've got to say further and faster.
They have to do it in a meaningful way. Labour stand for nobody right now.
Sorry about that. I'll replay that.
They don't appeal to the people on the right. They don't appeal to those moderates. They don't appeal to the people who traditionally.
Just Twitter being complete trash. Sorry about that, guys. So point being is they don't really back anyone. That's the point. They don't really represent anyone. They're trying to, they've thrown their core voters on the bus. People who are trans, people who are minorities, and other groups under the bus in order to chase reform voters in the hopes that in the idea that those voters will come round again.
Those moderates, they don't appeal to the people who traditionally would vote Labour. They're alienating every single subsection of society.
And I just want to go on record here. This is the strategy that failed Hillary Clinton. So this idea that you can kind of, your base will turn around and vote for you, and you can appeal to other voter bases, just doesn't work. Politics 101, appeal to your base, run to your base. And they haven't done that.
That is a big, big problem because they're trying to please everybody. You cannot do that. We've said what a fundamental mistake it is, but we're here now. But what's happening right now is Labour is glossing over that it was a fundamental mistake and pretending it's never happened. Now,
it's because they can't. It's too late. The ship has sailed. This from Rebecca Long Bailey.
And all his colleagues, they've been told they've got to say further and faster, whatever the hell that actually means.
It just runs to Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson made his cabinet, made people memorise these statements. Further and faster is just nonsense.
But I think it means more of the same. Is that a plan that can revive Labour fortunes?
No, I think we need to see a change.
With Boris Johnson, you had get Brexit done, build back better. These things actually mean something. Whether he did it or not, he didn't really. But when it comes to further and faster, 3-word slogan, right? What does that mean?
And fast. I was in Runcorn last week. I've got a family that live there, knocked on a lot of doors, and time again I was met with people who weren't just angry, they were emotionally destroyed by things such as the winter fuel allowance cut.
I wonder how many people you'd meet that would mention that would be impacted by it. It's mostly older people. You have to be a pensioner, I think, to get the winter fuel allowance. So unless you've spoken to mostly pensioners, or a lot of kind of middle-aged people, worried about their older relatives.
Potential cuts that are coming down the line in relation to disability benefits, not reversing the 2-child cap on universal credit, and they felt that the party was leaving them. They felt that the party wasn't the Labour Party anymore.
Which is fair, because I don't think they are the Labour Party anymore.
That it wasn't the party of the people, and that message should send shockwaves to Number 10. We've got to address those issues, and we've got to make sure that we're demonstrably helping the people that we were elected to serve.
I just, Labour Party have screwed that voter base over for the most part. I mean, small businesses, there are a lot of businesses that have backed Labour. They've been screwed over by them as well. They'll get screwed over twice, once by the national insurance increase and the other by the visa changes they're looking to make. So this is a whole different thing for a different clip. But when you look at economic confidence in the UK at the moment, it's rock bottom. It's really bad. Minus 68. It's worse than the financial crash, which was minus 64. I think it's the worst. It's pretty much on par with. Oh, sorry. This is in 1980. That's how bad it is. Like historic lows. Minus 64, minus 68 is lower actually. Sorry, it's my bad. I can't read. So right now, this is the lowest economic This the lowest economic optimism index in the history of this poll, which has run from 1978 to now. That's how bad it is, guys. And I can't, I think people are right to be very pessimistic about the economy. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.